There are plants growing in the average American backyard right now that people are selling for real money at farmers markets every weekend. A bundle of basil, 30 cents to grow, $3 to sell. A braid of garlic, $2 of seed stock, $15 to $20 on the table. One of these 9 can go from seed to sold in under 2 weeks. Another comes back on its own every spring, bigger than the year before, without you lifting a finger. None of this requires a farm. No greenhouse, no loan, no acreage, just a patch of ground, or even a sunny windowsill. 9 plants. I'm going to tell you what each one needs, how fast it grows, and what people are actually paying for it. Let's start with the one that's probably already growing somewhere on your property right now and that almost nobody realizes is worth a thing. Garlic. Now, folks treat this one like a kitchen staple, and that's all. But here's what I've noticed after years of growing my own. You pull apart one bulb into its individual cloves and plant every last one. Each clove grows into a full new bulb by summer. A single bulb might give you 8, 10, sometimes 12 cloves to plant, and each one of those comes back as a whole new head. That's the math I like. And the part that surprised me, even with my nursing background, garlic doesn't ask for much. It wants cold soil for a few months, and then it just goes to work, quiet, underground, while you're worrying about everything else in the yard. Now, at farmers markets, a braid of soft-neck garlic, a dozen bulbs, tied up nice, that can go for $15, $20. Hardneck varieties don't braid as well. Their stems go stiff once they dry, but they sell beautifully loose, or bunched for the table. And the seed stock to start either. You're growing your own the very next season from your own harvest. Foggy morning out here, and I could hear the chickens complaining about something before I even got my boots on. Anyway, back to the garlic. Simple, that's the word for this one. Plant once in October, mostly forget about it, harvest come July. Folks pay for simple, they just don't always know it. Here's how I get mine ready to sell. First, you cure the bulbs. Just lay them out somewhere dry and shaded for 2-3 weeks. Don't rush this part. The papery skin needs to firm up or they won't keep. Once they're cured, I trim the roots clean with garden shears right at the base of the bulb. Soft-neck varieties whose stems stay pliable when dry, I'll braid into long ropes. Hardneck with the stiff central stem. Those I tie into a bundle with twine. Both sell. For a soft-neck braid, I gather 3 stalks and work them together like a loose plait, adding a new bulb every few passes. It takes a little practice. The first one I ever made looked more like a knot than a braid. Last step, I hang the finished braids and bundles on an old nail by the porch, where buyers can see them before they even walk up to the table. Now, lemongrass. Most folks think of it as some exotic thing you'd only find in a specialty grocery. Truth is, one stalk from the store, rooted in a glass of water on your windowsill, will give you a whole new plant in about 2 weeks. It signals warmth, this plant. Wraps itself up tight like it's trying to hold on to summer, even when the air around it says otherwise. That's the smell people pay for, that bright citrus comfort. One mature clump will divide into 4, sometimes 5 new plants by the end of a single season, and tea shops, restaurants, they want it fresh, not dried. Fresh is where the real money sits. Rare. That's the right word for how often I see this one growing in a regular backyard around here, even though it's about the easiest thing I tend to. And here's the part I love. It comes back better the second year. The clump just gets wider, hardier, more forgiving of the days I forget to water it. When a clump gets crowded, I pull it whole out of the pot and set it on the bench to look it over. Then I work a clean knife straight down through the root ball, splitting it into 2 or 3 smaller sections. Each section goes into its own fresh pot of soil, and I water it in slow, so the roots settle without air pockets. And the bundles I sell, I just trim the tops down to about a foot, tie them with garden twine, and they're ready for the market table. Mint. Now, every gardener I know has a story about mint taking over something it wasn't supposed to, and that's exactly why it belongs on this list. That stubbornness is profit if you point it in the right direction. I always tell folks, keep this one in a pot. Let it spread sideways underground all it wants, but keep that pot contained, or it'll wander clean across your whole yard like it's got somewhere to be. And folks want it fresh, for tea, for cocktails, for garnish at restaurants. A little bundle that costs you nothing but a snip of the scissors can fetch a few dollars at a market stand. The rabbits round here have never once touched my mint patch. Not once. Everything else, they'll sample. This, they leave be. Generous. That's mint, through and through. It just keeps giving, week after week, long after most plants would have called it quits. I start by snipping the top few inches off each stem, just above a leaf node, so the plant branches out twice as full. Then I rinse the cuttings quick in a bowl of cool water, swishing out any garden grit. I pat them dry with a clean cloth, gentle, so the leaves don't bruise and turn dark before they're even sold. Then it's a rubber band around each little bundle and into a jar of water until it's time to head to market. Lavender. Now, this one's a slower start than some of the others on this list, but, well, once it's established, it just about takes care of itself. It likes dry feet and a sunny spot, which around here in the Pacific Northwest means picking your location careful. Good drainage is the whole secret. Get that right, and the plant does the rest. Dried bundles, sachets, the little bunches folks tuck into a linen drawer. That's where lavender earns its keep. One healthy bush can produce hundreds of stems a season. The bees out here go positively wild for it. I'll stand at the edge of the bed some mornings just listening to that hum before I do another thing. Patient. That's the word for lavender. It asks you to wait a season or two, and then it pays that patience back many times over. I cut the stems right when about half the buds on the spike have opened. Never the whole thing. That's when the oil's at its best. Then I gather a small handful of stems and wrap a rubber band tight around the base, since the stems shrink some as they dry. I hang the bundles upside down from a wooden rack in the shed, somewhere dark and dry for about 2 weeks. Once they're dry and the stems have gone stiff, I trim the ends even and tuck a bit of raffia ribbon around each bundle for the market table. Microgreens. Now, I mentioned this one back at the start, and I meant it. Out of everything on this list, this is the fastest path from seed to sold. You don't even need a yard, a shallow tray, some seed, a sunny windowsill, or a simple grow light. That's the whole operation, dearie. Restaurants buy these by the ounce for plate garnish, and chefs pay well for it because microgreens lose their punch fast once cut. Fresh and local is the whole selling point. I'll admit, the first batch I ever grew, I planted far too thick. Looked more like a lawn than a harvest. Lesson learned. Quick. That's really the whole appeal here. Quick to grow, quick to turn over, quick to make room for the next tray. I start with a thin, even layer of soil in the tray, then scatter the seed close together, but not piled on top of itself. I mist it with water, twice a day, just enough to keep the surface damp without pooling. Once they've got their first true leaves, I take clean kitchen scissors and snip them right at the soil line. Then I lay the cut greens out on a clean towel to dry a few minutes before packing them into little clamshell containers. Heirloom tomatoes. Now, here's where I'll tell you something most folks miss. The real money isn't always in the ripe tomato. It's in the seedling, sold come spring, before anybody else's garden has even woken up. Heirloom varieties, the old open-pollinated kinds, folks pay a premium for those over the regular grocery store hybrid. They've got a story to them, a taste folks remember from their grandmother's garden. One packet of heirloom seed can start dozens of seedlings. Sell those in 4-inch pots come spring, and that packet's paid for itself many times over before you've even harvested a single tomato. I lost my whole first tray one year to a surprise frost in April. Oregon weather. It does what it wants. Lesson there. Don't put them out too early, no matter how eager you are. Generous. Once a plant gets going, a single healthy heirloom tomato vine can give you tomatoes clean through to October out here. I start the seeds indoors, about 6 weeks before our last frost date, pressing 2 seeds into each small pot of starter soil. Once they've sprouted true leaves, I move them up into bigger 4-inch pots so the roots have room to settle in. A week or so before they're ready to sell, I set them outside in a sheltered spot for a few hours a day so they toughen up to the wind and sun. Then I tuck a little handwritten plant marker into each pot with the variety name, and they're ready for the market table. Basil. Now, if garlic is the patient one on this list, basil is the eager one. It wants to grow, and it wants to grow fast, given a little warmth and sun. The trick with basil, and this is the part most new growers miss, the more you cut it, the more it gives you. Pinch the top, and it branches out into 2 stems instead of 1. Restaurants, home cooks making sauce, fresh basil sells steady all summer long, and you can keep 1 row producing right up until the first cold snap. The smell of a basil patch on a hot afternoon, that's one of my favorite things about high summer out here. Stops me in my tracks every single time. Reliable. If I had to pick one word for basil, that's it. It just keeps showing up, ready to be cut, week after week. I cut basil stems just above a pair of leaves, never straight across the top, so the plant knows exactly where to branch next. I keep the cut stems standing upright in a jar of cool water right away, since basil wilts fast once it's separated from the roots. For market, I gather a small handful, even out the stem ends with 1 clean cut, and wrap the base in a damp paper towel, then a rubber band to hold it snug, and into a shaded crate for the trip to market so the leaves don't scorch on the drive over. Sunflowers. Now, I told you this one was just a flower, and it is, but florists and market shoppers will pay good money for a fresh cut stem, especially the branching varieties that give you more than 1 bloom per plant, the branching kind. That's the secret here. 1 seed, 1 stem to start, but if you pinch out the first central bud before it opens, the plant puts all its energy sideways instead, pushing out 6, 8, sometimes more blooms off the side branches over the season. It sounds wrong when you first hear it. Pinch the bud to get more flowers, but it works. Cut flower bouquets are some of the easiest things to sell at a farmer's market table. They catch the eye from clear across the lot before a person even reads your sign. I've got a row of these along the back fence, and by August they're taller than I am. Makes me feel like I'm walking through a little gold-colored hallway out there. Cheerful. There's really no other word for a bucket of fresh sunflowers. People just smile when they see them. That's worth something all on its own. I cut sunflower stems early in the morning, while it's still cool, right when the petals are just starting to unfurl, not fully open. I strip the lower leaves off each stem right away so they don't rot in the bucket water later. Then straight into a bucket of cool water, deep enough to cover at least 1/3 of the stem. For the market table, I group 5 or 6 stems together, wrap the base in brown craft paper, and tie it off with a bit of twine. And last on the list, echinacea. Now, this one's a perennial, meaning you plant it once, and it just keeps coming back, bigger, every single year. Folks know this plant by reputation more than by sight. It's been part of traditional herbal use for generations, and these days, you'll find it dried and bundled at herb shops and wellness markets alike. A single clump will divide into several new plants every few years, which means your starting investment just keeps multiplying without buying new seed. I remember the very first echinacea I ever planted out by the old fence post, half by accident. Now there's a whole bed of it there. Funny how that goes. Steady. That's echinacea. Slow to start, like lavender, but once it's settled in, it just keeps producing, year after year, with barely any fuss from me. I cut the flower heads once the petals are fully open and the center cone has firmed up, snipping with a clean pair of shears. I lay the cut flowers out on a wire mesh screen, spaced apart so air moves freely around each one. The screen goes somewhere dark and dry for about 2 weeks, until the petals go brittle and the color deepens. Once they're fully dry, I store them in a glass jar with a tight lid, away from direct light, ready to bundle for sale. So there you have it. 9 plants: garlic, lemongrass, mint, lavender, microgreens, heirloom tomatoes, basil, sunflowers, and echinacea. None of them need a tractor. None of them need a loan from the bank. Most of them, you could start with what's already sitting in your kitchen drawer or your local garden center. I've spent over 20 years tending to people, and the last several tending to a garden instead. And I'll tell you, there's a particular kind of satisfaction in selling something you grew with your own 2 hands. It's not about getting rich, dearie. It's about a little patch of ground pulling its own weight. Now, here's my garden fence question for you, and I want a real answer in the comments, not just a nice video. If you only had room for 3 of these 9, which 3 would you pick and why? Tell me your growing zone too. I'm curious how this list shifts depending on where you're planting. If this was useful to you, go ahead and subscribe. I've got more of these coming. What to grow, what to skip, and what I've learned the hard way so you don't have to. Until next time, friends, keep your hands in the dirt, and may the Lord keep you and your garden growing strong. God bless you.